Hello, my name is Reverend Heather Giffen, and I am the Associate Pastor here at Church of the Apostles, United Church of Christ, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. My call began in Wounded Knee, the site of a massacre of men, women, and children in South Dakota. It was here as a youth that I experienced God's calling into ministry. And it is there that I still take away my vision of where I think God is calling me to be. I think God is especially calling me to be in the parish because I continue to find different ways that just keep going. I continue to find different layers and ways that God is calling me to be in the midst of the people and what is God is calling me to do. I feel called especially not only to the parish, but to social justice. Because of my experience at Wounded Knee, there is part of my call is the responsibility for social justice for Native American peoples. But I have found here, especially at Church of the Apostles, that there is more than enough room for both. That I've found especially in the parish context, that this is a place that is hungry for wanting to be relevant, wanting to connect with the community and the needs of the community. I feel especially called to the United Church of Christ because of its commitment to the parish and to social justice, and sees that as two important parts of being the church. And I think that it is an important part of living out my call into ministry. Along with this is my personal vision and overall understanding of where my call is taking me to is this celebration of diversity. While I serve in a primarily white neighborhood, Lancaster is a surprising place of diversity, of refugees from all over the country, of people of different faith traditions, especially the Anabaptist tradition of Mennonites, Amish, and so it creates a diversity unlike any other in the United States. I think part of this diversity and overarching call or vision with my ministry is to incorporate and reach out to those who are invisible. It started out with Native Americans because they are, in my estimation, the most invisible people of this country because there are so few and their voices rarely get heard. But as I have pursued my call into ministry, I have really found that it is our youth, our teenagers, that are often left unheard in our congregations today. And so I have a real commitment to the youth in not only this church, but the celebration of youth in the wider church as well. I would say the thing continuing with the and talking about the my real passion in ministry right now is my youth, and I do say my youth because I love claiming and naming them each and every way. I am really passionate about being innovative and finding new ways for them to be involved in the church and in the community, and how they are especially vulnerable during this time, because it is especially hard to be a young person than it was even 20 years ago. I think, especially in this area too, where there is a higher rate of suicide. That has been something that has been recently revealed to me, that suicide is a real problem, and so I can. And that, I think, is because of the work of the Spirit that I came across this, that I continue to find ways to support and be there for my youth. I would say that the Bible verse that really has driven me in my call and my passion, and it's the meaning has grown over time, would be from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12, which reads, "Do not be despised let no one despise your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, conduct, in love, in faith, in purity." At first, it was a scripture of confidence in my abilities, even as a young person, to be a minister. But now it has become a it has become a calling to empower young people and turn around and share the gospel with the youth in my church, and but also share the fact that the youth are an important part of our ministry of this church. Some of the leadership lessons that I have learned has been, and it's a continuing learning process, is the clarity of communication and the ability to say the same thing in different ways. Communication is something that, while it's a lesson that I've learned, but it's also a lesson that I continue to learn. I also feel like some of my other lessons in leadership have been about especially in this current climate of the church struggling where to go next or what to be. I think really has been the importance of experimenting and being not afraid to take risks, trying out new things, and being okay if it doesn't work, because that's the only way that I feel like as a church we can move forward and be in this time of experimentation. But it's a lesson that has been a hard one to learn for me because just in life being taught that, failure is not an option. Um, Especially in the church, that there's a lot at stake for the future of this church, where the church is wondering how we're going to be if we're going to exist tomorrow. It is a great risk, but I think it's the risk that we need to take. I would say the other leadership lesson that I have and continue to learn is claiming my leadership. I've learned that my leadership is primarily rooted in empowering others and connecting others with the resources and the tools that they need to lead in their way. Like with planning activities, or if somebody has an idea to reach out to something, to a group, or wanting to do a new ministry in the community, that they need to know that they are supported. But I don't think I claim or do that in a way that claims my authority and my leadership. As I alluded to earlier about the changing dynamics of where the church is in society, I think that is the greatest challenge that we face, is where do we go from here? Yes, churches are dying, but I think, and I've seen so many different ways where innovation and hope and I guess a centeredness of where Jesus calls us to be as his disciples, and where I think it has allowed us to be more attentive to see where God is speaking, and to see that, yes, in the midst of this unknown, God is still speaking, and God still calls us to go forward. But it's gathering that strength and wherewithal to go forward and to find the hope in the midst of the chaos. With that being said, I think the greatest contribution that I have for this leadership, this Next Generation Leadership Institute, is my ability and understanding of ministry through the lens of my calling and my education, and learning about ministry in the Native American worldview. When I was in seminary at United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities, I also spent 4 years at All Nations Indian Church, UCC, in Minneapolis, with Reverend White Rabbit Marlene White Rabbit Hilgamo. And she and this congregation taught me so much about a very indigenous understanding of the church, how both the gospel and the renewal of culture can come together side by side, how to reach out to those who are different, especially and figuring out, well, what is the way in which you connect with the gospel? And how does it empower you to live a life of sobriety or to lead a new nonprofit organization or school, or how does the gospel allow you to thrive and survive in the midst of and living in a smaller and what feels like an ever shrinking part of society of indigenous people? And how can the church be a part of that? I think that worldview of indigenous understanding of ministry is really the unique aspect that I think I bring to this program. But I think a great many lessons I think can be learned for me is really about claiming my voice. I know I have a lot to give, but as a young clergy person, I also have a lot to learn. I think this institute would help me and give me the tools to understand deeper the role of relationships in the congregation, and how conflict can be an opportunity, how the struggles and the joys of the life of the congregation can be a way to propel the congregation forward. I think that this opportunity would teach me in a way that would help not only myself, but it would also help how I minister to the congregation. Thank you.